Or yeah, there we go. Okay,
I'm
so I
so glad
stopped
this
one.
worked out today. I'm so glad this worked out today because my calendar was oddly free, and I thought,
Yeah, I never have a whole afternoon free.
no, I know. And I thought, okay, we'll do one of ours and we'll reschedule. And I thought, this has just worked out lovely. And a good little focus for me today.
Good.
So, okay. And so we're talking about writing, healing through writing.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And what do you want me to say about you or?
Yeah, I'm a life storytelling and resilience expert. And so what I teach people to do is I'm going to write this down.
I'll put it in the chat too.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Embrace your stories. Enable your stories. Enhance your stories and elevate your stories. So
you want to add that to the chat?
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go. Copy. And so I'll put life storytelling and resilience expert. And
oh, perfect. Oh, yeah. Go faster than me.
Life stories in order to recover.
Perfect.
There we go. Love that. And then you want me to give a freebie, or do you want me to direct them to either the summit or the Life Story Laboratory course?
Whatever you feel good about. And I can post those things in the comments as well. I'll put this as a live in my group. And yeah. So I can add whatever links you want.
Story toolkit. Free. lifestorylaboratory.com course. So what I will do is I will give away the Life Story Toolkit, and then and let me just see where that link is. And then I'll say, hey, that's just the first part. If you really want to write your life stories and dig into those tough things, and then the lifestorylaboratory.com is going to be open in August. So, or when will this air?
Oh, whenever you send me the link, I'll do it.
Okay.
Soon. Yeah.
Okay. Let me find out where my links are.
Oh, you're okay. And you can email them to me after this if you need to, because I'll lose the chat. But this is good for me so that I can.
Yeah, you know what? I will have to send that to you. I'll have to send you the link.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right. I'm going to make that in my notes. Send Sarah link to Life Story Toolkit. Okay, perfect.
Okay.
All right.
Ready? You ready for me to go?
I am. I'm going to just do this.
You need to cut.
That always helps.
Okay, awesome. Hello, everyone. I want you to go back in your mind to when you were a little girl, right? And you read the stories of prince and princesses and the princess being saved or the dragon. You saw these movies and it felt like your life was going to be an exciting story. And then life happened. And it did, probably, if you're like me, did not turn out anything like you thought it was going to. The amazing thing is we can take our stories and actually heal from them. And I am here with Stacey Brookman. Hi, Stacey.
Hello. So glad to be here, Sarah.
This is what she does. This is what she is amazing at, is healing women through trauma, allowing them teaching them the skills to write out their tough life stories to change their stories, right? Is that what you do?
Exactly. Yes, that's exactly what I do.
Yes. She's also a resiliency expert, which of course, how has writing made you more resilient, Stacey?
Oh my goodness. Yes. When you have time for a story, I'm all about storytelling.
Sure.
So when I was getting a divorce from a sociopath, and it was really terrible, of course, 10 years, and some of you have probably experienced almost exactly the same things because sometimes they go through the same playbook. Anyway, it was very tough. And I thought it was a tough marriage, but it was even tougher divorce, of course. And my brain was in
And I do want
fog.
to be super clear and say, I bet you're still glad you did it.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Right. If
Yes.
anyone's watching this and think, oh, my marriage is really tough and I don't want to go through the tough divorce, Stacey and I go way back. And I thought,
yes. I learned so much. It is so much better on the other side.
Yes.
So much. It is so worth it. Worth it.
Oh, awesome.
Yes. But anyway, so, your brain is in brain fog, you're stressed and things like that. And I did what I thought was a very selfish thing. My mom and dad actually gave me money for my birthday. They still did, even as an adult. And I took that money, instead of spending it on the family or the house or the bills or anything else like that, which I would normally have done, I spent it on me. Mm-hmm. And what I did was use it to go to a memoir class at Rochester. Writers and Books in Rochester, New York. Amazing class. It was all about just memoir. But what I did was I brought the crazy stories of what was happening to me each week to that class. And what happened was, these people in the class, like, they had never experienced a crazy thing. Like, it shocked some of them that, but what they did, and they couldn't solve my problems. What happened was they held my story gently in their hands and acknowledged what I was going through. And I realized as I was writing, I was becoming a lot calmer. I was figuring out, okay, how did I, a professional, confident woman, get involved with somebody who was an abusive person in the first place? And even better, what are the steps I need to take to get out of this and complete this, just build an amazing life? And just writing. And so I thought, just writing does that? How does that work? So I started digging into the psychology and the art of writing about your tough life stories. And like most people say, just forget about it, or, let the past be in the past. Mm-hmm. But what I found out was there's a lot of research around writing your tough life stories in order to recover from them and really get that hurt out. And so I'm like, wow, everybody needs to know this. So I started teaching it myself, and that's how I got into this.
So I would be curious to know what patterns you saw, because Tony Robbins, he says, if you're in your head, you're dead. And really the process of writing it out, did that really happen? Did he really say this? Did I really do this?
Right.
When it's on paper, I'm sure you saw some really interesting patterns.
Yes, absolutely. And it actually started, I started putting it on paper because my attorney said, start writing these things down unemotionally, just this happened, this happened, this happened. And that helps you because, like, you're right. Did I really say that? I don't think I said it. It's not what I normally would say, but he says I said that. And, you're always unsure of yourself. Mm-hmm. And so that really, really helped. But I found that by writing these things down, first of all, it helped with that brain fog. Absolutely. And I was like, wait a minute, I didn't say that, and he's saying it. Wait a minute, I didn't do that. Wait a minute, that didn't really happen. Like, some things were like, wait a minute, he never told me that, or I never did. And so you stop doubting yourself so much. I love that. And it was like, and you start seeing it for, if that really didn't happen, or if I really did say that and I wrote it down right away afterwards, so I know I said it because I wrote it down. I wouldn't have written it down if I didn't say it. Then he is lying. Mm-hmm. And it just kind of like confirmed, okay, I'm not crazy. I'm not the crazy one. There's something to this. Mm-hmm. And what really happens actually was when you come through trauma, and it works for, it's trauma of any kind. If you're going through, other than a divorce, it's just a accident, a health issue, whatever trauma, there's no trauma Olympics, but whatever trauma there is that you have, it works. And when you come through trauma, that memory is stored in a different part of your brain than regular memories. And that memory can come back to haunt you time and time and time again. And it comes back with details, like really vibrant details. And you're just like, oh, I can't, I need to be this very small person and not show up in the world and be as small as possible so nobody asks me anything or looks at me. And so, but what writing does is it gets all those words that are jumbled up in your head out in black and white. You can see them for what they are, what really happened. So you're telling the truth. And what it does is it takes those memories from that. That's what people with PTSD, they have those memories that come back and vibrant, and they're hiding from you, and then they come back. What it does is it puts those memories back on this side where, I don't know which side it is, but in the regular memory bank where they can then fade just like regular memories, and they can't hurt you anymore.
And is that connected to fight and flight, the reptilian brain, and those getting stored in is it your basal?
Yeah.
Connection, I think.
Oh, yes.
I know there's so
something
many
to that
layers
amygdala.
Of brain. Yeah.
Yes.
Where it's getting stuck in those, the oldest parts of humanity.
Exactly. Where you're just reacting, you're just reacting.
Our animalistic brain.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So when you write, you're like, okay, I can have control. Number one, you have control over the words, how you're writing, what you're saying, what you're, et cetera. That's the first thing. Second thing, writing is such a safe space. You don't ever have to share your writing with somebody. I remember growing up and as a teenager and young adult, trying to start writing a diary, trying to start writing a journal. And I don't know if any of you have ever tried to start a journal and then you were like embarrassed because what if somebody actually saw it? And like I started so many times and I'm like, all I can write are negative things. And I don't want somebody to look at that down the future and think I'm a negative person. So I was always judging myself and never getting that out until I started writing. So really, this is just for you. Just to get this junk out of your head. And it is so incredibly healing. Don't judge yourself. Don't just lay it out there. It is what it is. We all make mistakes. And, I was afraid, like, I don't want to be the bad person. I don't want to be you're judging yourself and you're feeling that other people are going to judge you. Don't worry about that. Just get those words out. You can burn them later. Absolutely.
So. And what did you discover about who you were and who you are? Because toxic people like to tell us not only who you are but who you should be, and it always works to their advantage, right? And so I'm guessing there was some real healing learning who you were.
Oh my goodness, I never imagined myself to have some superpowers. Really never. And I have had superpowers. I've had, I love writing, I love being creative, I love doing all these kinds of things. But in that relationship, I had to be a certain person. I had to be always on edge, always on the lookout for what I should be or should do or shouldn't do or, whatever. When I started writing and I got out of that relationship, and when I started writing, I discovered my superpowers. And I'll tell you this. One of the first exercises we did, and this is what I take my students through, is finding out what your life theme is. And I discovered, I thought I was a professional woman and I was in business and I was, all of that. What I discovered after writing, that I never raised my hand. Not in kindergarten, grade school, high school, young adult, middle-aged adult. I didn't say, no, that's not right. Don't do that. I'm not, I don't want to do that. All of those things. I didn't stand up for myself. And I was just shocked. I'm like, and I didn't like that life theme. I'm like, I don't like that life. That's not me. But it rang true, because what I was writing, I was like, oh, when you look at it, it's, you can face that and say, oh my gosh. That's the nice thing about that is when you do that exercise and you just really look at it, you can then change it. So I didn't like that life theme of not standing up for myself. So guess what I did? I started standing up for myself. It felt so good. I started thinking, wow, I have power. I'm giving myself the power to say no and do the things I always wanted to do. And so I became a more authentic person. In my 20s, I used to look at those older women. I thought, I'll never get there. They were confident. They didn't care what other people thought. They were, whatever and I always thought, I'll never be there. They're so confident. They must have been born that way.
I
Writing helped me get there. And it's incredible.
Well, and I'd love to ask how that affected your daughters, because when you first made that decision of, okay, it's almost selfish to spend this money on me, but I'm going to do that instead of spending money on my children. Like, what were the long-term effects on your daughters for you to heal, for you to become the person who, this lovely, confident, you and I have known each other for several years now, but, just lovely, confident woman. And showing them how to rebuild your life.
Yes.
Right.
That is the beautiful thing. So that's actually the first decision that I made when I got out of the relationship is I took a hard look at, oh my gosh, my girls are watching me in emotional abuse. And by simply observing it, they're at risk of growing up and getting into those exact same type of relationships. And that broke my heart.
Because you're normalizing it.
Yes.
You're teaching them that's normal.
Yes.
Right?
And so the first thing, so when I started this process of escaping and getting out of that relationship, that was my first impetus. But what happened was after writing and becoming more confident, I'm like, wow, because you can fake confidence, but really that internal confidence, your kids see that. They know there are indications. And so when I was building that up and doing self-care, right, having self-compassion and standing up for myself, that was beautiful. And they were observing that. They're young adults now. And I see them. My oldest daughter has traveled the world to Japan and Australia and New Zealand, and on her own, like age 18, she did. So I'm raising more resilient kids, right? And they're becoming more resilient adults and going to get into much healthier relationships because of seeing me become that way. And
because you did the work of, I don't want to say fixing, but, healing yourself.
Yes.
Rather than hiding behind your girls and avoiding it, which is easy,
exactly.
Right? That
it
one
is
decision.
Easy.
Yes.
Right. There's so many people, and I've seen so many folks that, they just get out of those relationships and they slog through day by day by day, just surviving. Okay, I survived that relationship. I got out. Shoo. And yet they stay in that, they stay trapped by their own thoughts and their own limits on their capabilities because other people have limited their capabilities for so long.
Because it was convenient for the other person, not because they didn't have them. Yes.
Right. Yes. You've hid your light under, you've hid your light. But when you discover, like when you start writing, you're going to discover amazing things about yourself that you never even imagined. And you're going to be able to start like leveraging those superpowers and building them up. And I've got chills just thinking about it, actually, because you find a person that you were really meant to be, right? You weren't meant to be that person who is timid and always at the beck and call of somebody else or things like that. You were meant for greatness and to be your own kind of great. And writing helps you just blossom and discover all of that. And so it's a beautiful thing.
Well, I love that. And I really did love the example about it moving into different parts of your brain and getting out of that fight, flight, freeze, getting out of that animal reaction. Because what have you seen bringing that version of yourself, that very animalistic version, kind of the safety, let me stay safe version, into a future, into new relationships, into new job opportunities. Like, it affects everything, right?
It does. And yes, I keep saying I never imagined myself, because it's so true. I never imagined that I could be doing what I am doing today and being who I am today back then, or even in the midst of it. I just could not have imagined that. And here, I always say, writing helps you leverage your tough life stories to make your future self wiser and more resilient. Because here's why: when you write, you've already learned some lessons going through what you've gone through. You just don't realize it, and you're not implementing or leveraging those right now. And so when you write, they come to light. Like, you're digging up that junk, of course, but you have learned some wisdom there, and you have those amazing skills, like if the skill of verbal, defense, or the skill of holding steady in spite of, someone saying, "Oh, I just bought a horse." That's a true example. I bought 2 horses. Oh, really? Okay. Where will we put them? Those crazy things. That's a superpower, being able to remain,
It is. It is. Well, and I want to point out another superpower you said, and I'm not sure if everyone caught this, but she said, "I never imagined I would do what I do and be who I am." And those things being congruent.
Yes.
Right. And, I always say, if my people that see me online were at the dinner table with me, I want them to see the same version of Sarah. If they're, see me in this capacity or this capacity or this capacity, obviously sometimes I have to be more playful or more professional or whatever else it is. A little different volunteering at my kid's school than, speaking in a summit. But what you do and being who you are, it seems as if that discovery process of writing your life stories helped you align those.
It did. It really, really did. And here's another thing is, I just flat out lowered my moral standards when I was in this relationship. And I kind of came down to his level in so many things. And I did not like it. I didn't like, it was uncomfortable, but yet I felt like that's what I had to do. When I wrote, I rediscovered, wait a minute, I have these morals, these values that are valuable to me and not somebody else, right? That I could then say, okay, this is really who I am. And it is, I can do the things that reflect who I am and my values and my standards. I love it. And I'll just give you an example, not necessarily morally, but at one point our house was a mess. It was not hoarder status, but it was really bad. I was so ashamed. My mom came to visit, and it was just ugly. It was awful. And totally, just very ashamed. And that wasn't my standard. That wasn't who I was. But yet I was in that space, and that was the standard. That was how we lived as a couple. And I was like, I couldn't constantly clean and do everything. So one of the things when I got out was, okay, what is my standard? What do I want to be? And again, how do I want to show my girls how to be and uplift their moral standards and their standards of living and things like that. And so I've never told that story to anybody. My mom might probably watch this, but it's true. And that's just one small example. There's so many hundreds of different examples, probably, of how you all have not operated with integrity with yourself.
Absolutely. Right? And people say, oh, if I'm going into dating, like, what red flag should I ignore? And it's like, okay, you can Google a list of red flags, but hey, we all ignored red flags that we would have seen on a list. We didn't need a Google search to know those are red flags, but we still ignored them. We still, when you think about solving the right problem, right? Knowing what the red flags are, or knowing you're not going to put up with the red flags, are two different pieces. And that integrity piece, right,
Yeah.
of these are my moral standards. This is what I will and will not put up with. That brings a different version of you into the next relationship.
Exactly. A version of you that is authentic to you. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to worry about lowering your standards for somebody else. If you have to lower your standards, they're mm-hmm. not the right person for you. Mm-hmm. Right.
And if your standards, the only standard is, I hope you choose me.
Oh,
or
yes.
you really like me,
right.
or you're really nice to me, or you're not as bad as my ex.
Yeah.
Right? Those are not the standards you're talking
those
about.
Those are not
obviously.
the standards. No.
Yeah, this is living in integrity, and
yes.
And nor can the standard be, if I'm nice enough, you'll be nice back, or if mm-hmm. I'm good enough to you, you'll be good back, or if I'm right. giving enough, eventually it will be my turn. Those aren't the standards you're talking about, right?
Definitely not.
Those are not the standards, right? It's a standard of, it sounds like, of who you are, mm-hmm. where you're going,
right,
and who belongs on the journey with you.
It's aspirational, but also just authentic. And you have to do this right. You have to dig mm-hmm. to figure this out, right? It's not just, oh, I want to do that, and that. Mm-hmm. It's really digging into, okay, who am I Absolutely. Really? So it's not something that you like, okay, I've written something and then now I'm going to go off and date, or now I'm going to go off and do this. No, you have to learn those lessons. You have yes. to dig into those and really know what those are, recognize those.
And if you do not learn those lessons, you will be doomed to repeat those lessons.
You will repeat
life
them.
Will keep teaching it yes. to you over and
Unfortunately,
over.
Life does that for sure.
Yeah, and it's a lot better to learn resiliency in the safety of white pages and pencil yes. and ink, and rather mm-hmm. than in another divorce, in another situation where your kids aren't proud of you, in another right. situation.
Learned. However, let me just tell you this. If you have been, I think I know somebody who's been married, divorced and married 4 times, mm-hmm. married the same man twice, divorced mm-hmm. and remarried. Don't feel shame, guilt, anything about that. You just need to learn the lessons and mm-hmm. start digging into this to find out who you are and be happy with who you are all by yourself. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing when you do that. Like mm-hmm. it will blow your mind. You're like, wow, I love who I am. Mm-hmm. I'm happy. I'm confident. And when you go into a new relationship with that, right, you are, and not lower your standards, it's just a totally different, attracts totally different people. Yes. When you get into a relationship with somebody who is like ready to control you and just mm-hmm. is going to love bomb you just to get you mm-hmm. in, you know, they're not going to like that. They're not going to like that confidence and continue with confidence and saying no to them at all. Mm-hmm. And you can say no because that's not within your values, beliefs, standards, etc. So mm-hmm.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing with us, Stacey.
You are welcome.
Tell us where we can find out more about you, find goodies from you.
Yes.
Give us some more info.
Absolutely. StaceyBrookman.com, StaceyBrookman.com. Have lots of resources there. What I will give you is a link to the life storytelling toolkit. Uh-huh. So if you want to get started, just dip your toe in the water on starting through that process of saying, what would it look like if I were to really write and start mm-hmm. writing in the safety of your own home or computer or journal or wherever you want to do it. Uh-huh. You can burn it. Just get started and seeing how that could blossom into something that's amazing. I will give that to you. So I'll give you the link, and that is really cool. And then I also have, if you really want to dig in and you really want to write your stories, I have the lifestorylaboratory.com. Mm-hmm. That is my course. It's getting started again in August. Mm-hmm. And you can get on the wait list there, but it is amazing. Like it is this, I remember I mentioned that small group of people who held my stories, my tough stories in their hands without judgment. This is that same type of community. And so we're all going to be writing at the same time. Mm-hmm. So I'd love to welcome you all into that as well.
Well, and what a gift to others when you think about you spreading the message then, so that that wasn't their normal life, but they had some context right?
Yes.
It's part of their healing
Yes.
journey. It's like, oh, I had a friend. Oh, this is abuse. Oh, this is a toxic relationship. Oh, because you were brave enough to write your story.
Yeah.
And you could have changed somebody else's story within that.
Right. Absolutely. You know what? I already have. I get people telling me and emailing me all the time, like, oh my gosh, I never knew this. And so it has changed folks' lives. And I love that. That's exciting for me.
As it should be. And it's exciting for me. I'm sure we will meet again. The universe keeps bringing Stacey and I together.
It does.
Love it. Thank you so much, Stacey.
You are welcome, Sarah. See ya.
Bye.
Yay.
Yay. My poor earbuds. I'm so glad that was on my thing instead of yours, because my people are so used. I do live.